All right, welcome everybody. I'm here with Will Keiter actually he's from two bands in the South Jersey area. He's in Twisted Livin and Plaid Salmon, and Will is going to talk to us tonight about his background and his influences in his music and his playing and his roles in each of his bands. And he's also going to tell us about the South Jersey music scene. So I hope you'll tune in, and I want to welcome Will.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm glad we finally got this set up, and we're going to get right down into it. And I want you to talk about your early influences and how you got started in music.
So at a young age, I was fortunate enough to have a band program at my middle school, and they were super encouraging of kids trying out instruments and just trying to get a feel for anything that they enjoyed or found fascination in. And my brother, being 3 years older than me in the school band, played trumpet. And when he got enjoyment out of it and came home and took his trumpet out of the case and practiced every day, I wanted that same sort of joy. But I knew I couldn't pick the same instrument as him, so I went with saxophone.
So how old were you?
When I started middle school band, I was about 10 years old. I listened to so much music when I was a kid. I always knew I wanted to play. I just didn't know what I wanted to play or how I wanted to play it.
Gotcha. So what were you listening to when you back then?
I listened to a lot of what my parents gave me, which I think is the case for a lot of kids in my situation. And my dad fed me a lot of Beatles and classic rock, and my mom fed me a lot of blues and jazz.
That's a nice mix. So growing up, you were exposed to those pretty early on, would you say?
Absolutely. From the age of 4, when I was, hanging around my grandmother's place, she would have Count Basie and Frank Sinatra blasting out of the radio. We could hardly talk at dinner when I was a kid, but it was good because I was subconsciously getting great music in my head.
So you were pretty much always exposed to music from a pretty early age?
100%.
And musical. Pretty diverse genres, it sounds like, too. Did you realize what you really kind of liked, the sound or the styles of music that you liked back then?
I knew that swing music called to me when I was younger, and then that led me more into R&B and things that stemmed off of the swing era of jazz. But I always, like I said, with the Count Basie and Frank Sinatra, I always go back to big band music. It has a very special place in my heart from when I was younger.
Did your parents play?
So my dad played clarinet in his high school marching band, and my mom played flute in her high school marching band.
Oh, wow. Did they play when you were growing up? Did they play in the house, or did they play, did they ever play recreationally or just like on social occasions?
They didn't, and I think they always used the excuse that they didn't have time, but I totally think that they could have picked it up and still could pick it up if they wanted to.
Oh,
but
wow.
no, they didn't really play it when I was younger. They just were very encouraging of listening to music and making it a part of your everyday life.
When you decided that you wanted to play, you started in middle school, you said?
So I started in middle school, yeah. One of my dad's friends, ironically, came over after I got started. Me and PJ were, quote-unquote, jamming in our living room when we were little kids, playing some sheet music that we got from school. And one of my dad's friends came over, and he heard us playing the horns, and he said, "Guys, I have a charity band that I play about once a month with, and I'd love to have you guys come up and play with us as a horn section." And mind you, at the time, I was 10 years old, so I thought this was going to be the coolest thing in the world.
It sounds pretty cool.
It was for me, I'll tell you what. I got so much out of that, and it led to new connections. It led to me having the ability to have confidence on stage at a young age. When he came over and offered that opportunity to us, PJ and I were so thrilled by it that we wanted to just go every single time they had rehearsals. So we were there twice a week playing classic rock covers, sort of what you would call dad rock, with this group of 50-year-old guys, and we were the horn section.
So there was rehearsals, or were you actually doing gigs?
So rehearsals and gigs. We would gig about once a month, and these shows we probably got about, I don't know, $20, $25 for. And I'll never forget that the the lead singer's dad, came up to us the first gig we ever played. It was at Great Bay Country Club in Linwood. And he came up to us and he tipped us each a $2 bill. And that was very special to me, because not only have I never played a gig before, but I had also never seen a $2 bill in my life. So that was a special night.
You said they were charity events? Like,
yeah, so they played sort of fundraisers and, just events for companies in the area that they would sponsor. I remember the lead singer did a ceilings and blinds business, so when they would have events, we would play for those as well.
Nice. What kind of crowds were you performing in front of, like, at that time?
Surprisingly, pretty large crowds of up to 50 to 75 people. And they were attentive because we were two little kids next to a bunch of people that have been doing it for a while, and everyone knows that does it. So we were the hot commodity. We were a couple kids that were fascinated in doing something that was only thought to be an old dad thing.
And what were you playing at the time?
I was playing alto saxophone at the time.
Oh wow! And how about your brother? You said, right?
Yeah, my brother was a trumpet player at the time.
Okay, so you guys had the horn section.
Yeah, and soon after that, our buddy Ricky came and joined on trombone after PJ made friends with him through the marching band. And then that led to us, starting other groups with newfound members. And as we grew older, we met people in the area, and then high school allowed us to really start getting moving on groups and playing live.
So it started with the charity events, and then you said that was middle school. And then, so take us into high school. What was happening then?
So the big thing about high school for me was we tried to set up a band for our talent show. And it was my freshman year, and my brother was a senior because he was 3 years older than me. So we decided, well, you know what? We got 1 year together. Let's do something for the talent show. And we just watched the Blues Brothers movie the week that we decided that we were going to do the talent show. So we were like, let's do 3 or 4 Blues Brothers songs for the talent show and dress up in black and white suits with like the Blues Brothers and just try and put on as good of a show as we can. And we ended up winning the talent show.
Wow.
Which was a huge confidence boost for us, and it led us to put on our own charity concert for St. Jude's Children's Hospital at our high school, and we raised over $1,000 in proceeds that we donated. And I could send you over the picture of us with the big check when we were little kids.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, we'll use that. So did you have the Ray-Bans?
Oh yeah. We
had the whole
glasses. We had fedoras. It was the whole thing.
Oh, nice. And was that early in high school, like freshman?
Yes, this was my freshman year, and this was probably the end of my freshman year around May. So I was starting to feel a little comfortable in high school, and then I went out and acted like I was a blues brother in front of everybody on my class. So that was an icebreaker for me.
Oh, what a great way to start. How did it grow from there?
So when we realized that band could do something and realized that we were decent enough to play a set list live, we booked a community event in Birch Grove Park in Northfield, New Jersey. And it was a concert in the park series in late August, which felt really, really exciting to us and ended up being not as great of a gig as we wanted it to be, but it was a first gig nonetheless, because playing that concert series, there was maybe, 50 people there or so, gave us the confidence to know that, okay, we can do this outside of the school and people can appreciate it. And through that, we had some more rehearsals. Some band members left, some new band members joined, some people that could be more committed and had more time. And we started booking as Plaid Salmon. And that charity band, in case you were wondering earlier,
yeah,
the SSPs. They were the Supersonic Powers. The
SSPs.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like it evolved from the charity events into the Plaid Salmon. How did that evolve as far as the name and getting the guys together?
So the name actually comes from an old YouTube video of a couple old guys sitting around doing a Beastie Boys cover, and they're singing karaoke, and their name was Plaid Salmon. And unfortunately, most of those guys, by the time we viewed that video, because it was from 2001, but by the time we viewed that video, most of those guys had passed away. So we thought of it as kind of a tribute.
Oh, wow. Cool. And so did that Plaid Salmon, that took you pretty much all through high school?
Yeah, all through high school, and I actually continued to go back and play with the SSPs once a month when they were continuing to book gigs, and when they would have gigs, we would go back and play with them when we weren't working on things for our own. My brother at the time, when I got into my sophomore and junior year, he was studying jazz at Jersey City University, the same college that I later attended, and bringing that home to me and showing me all these amazing things like Charlie Parker and Jaco Pastorius and all these deep jazz influences that I was like, wow, maybe cover music isn't everything, and maybe improvisation is a huge part of who I want to be as a musician as well. And I can thank my brother for that wholeheartedly.
Wow, yeah. So were you listening to some of those things in the house too, or was your brother kind of exposing you to that was like new? Being exposed to that through him?
100% being exposed to jazz through my brother was my means of, that was my outlet. He would come home on Thanksgiving break and winter break, and for 2 or 3 years there, I would just look forward to the weeks that I knew he was coming home, and I'd get on the phone with him and I'd talk to him about what he was learning, and he'd bring home sheet music for me so I could read through it and listen to it. And it really gave me a jump start on what I was to do in my junior and senior year in high school jazz, and that allowed me to be a leader in my ensembles.
Nice. That's a great start. And it sounds like you already had a pretty diverse exposure and then influences, and then your brother it even expanded while you were in high school.
Absolutely. My brother is probably 70% of the reason that I am the musician that I am today, and I credit him with a lot.
Awesome. Formal training. So did you decide at that point, I mean, you were had the experience of being in the band, and then when did you decide you wanted formal training?
I got to NJCU my freshman year of college, and they mandate that you have 14 private lessons by the end of the semester, and you actually don't get to pick your lesson instructor at the school because selection is limited. There's 1 or 2 saxophone teachers, or there's 1 or 2 bass teachers. Mm-hmm. So I was assigned a teacher. His name was Larry Bustamante, and he plays in the Latin big band in Union City, and he also plays in the Mingus big band. He has a Latin Emmy with that band, so when he said things, I mouth shut and ears open. I learned a lot my first semester from him in those lessons. So my first private instruction was really because I had to do it at college. I never pursued it on my own because I was already playing gigs in high school, and I thought of myself as like, well, you know what, if I can do it now, I might as well just keep learning the music that I can learn. And I bit it off one day at a time.
So did you go right into the program from high school?
Yeah, I thought it was unnecessary. I was initially planning on taking a year, but I went right into college the next fall, and I feel like it was in my best interest. I applied to William Patterson for jazz as well, but I got into NJCU, and I think it was fate because my brother went there too, and it was it was nice to have experience and have him pave the way like he had for me in high school. So I'm grateful for that.
In college, what sparked, as far as you were into the jazz, and you were mentioning Jaco Pastorius?
I spent a lot of time around rhythm section players at NJC. A lot of what I did was based on having a small ensemble and being able to call together a piano player, a bass player, and a drummer, or a guitar, a bass player, and a drummer, and call tunes and be able to practice those tunes so that when you show up for your ensemble rehearsal the next week, you know what's going on and you don't embarrass yourself. So a lot of what I did was seek out people on campus that I could mesh with and try and create good music with. And that's kind of where I found my fascination for bass guitar, was looking for musicians on campus. I could never find a bass player. I am not kidding you. I would look and I would look and I would look, but the most common thing I could find was a drummer, and I could never find a bass player. So when I got out of NJCU, I knew that if I was going to pick up a second instrument, it was going to be an instrument that was in demand, and it happened to be what we needed for Denny and I to start our group. But not getting into that yet. Just wanted to on that.
Setting the stage for that. The bass, the interest and the training and the experience in the bass developed. Was that kind of after college or during?
I think it was during my experience as a saxophone player at NJCU that I really found my fascination for bass guitar. Being around so many great upright bass players was fuel for me to try and expand my musical knowledge by transferring it to another instrument.
When you started that, was it like a new exciting thing where maybe you weren't kind of put the horn down for a little bit and got into the bass, or were you kind of switching back and forth?
Initially, I treated it as the problem child, where I would only work on it once a week, twice a week, and I didn't want to cheat on my horn, you know?
Gotcha.
I felt weird not practicing my saxophone, but, you know, when there's demand for it, and there's a reason for it, and there's a promise of a set list and a band that can make good music, then that's pretty easy motivation to get going.
Wow, so it was almost like you didn't want to be disloyal to your first love.
Exactly right. Yeah,
and,
I got saxophone, and I didn't want to cheat on him.
So how did that develop as far as Plaid Salmon goes? How did things develop as you were starting to get more experience and kind of diversify your instruments even? How did that change? Did that change or have an impact on Plaid Salmon?
100%. Plaid Salmon wouldn't be what it was today if we didn't have the ability to sub players in and out at will. I love Plaid Salmon as a cover group because it's this conglomeration of 7 people who play at a time, but it's really like 25 people in a pool who all play different instruments and can sit for each other if needed.
Wow. So is Plaid Salmon mostly covers?
Plaid Salmon is all covers.
All covers. Right. Okay.
Yep. And we had some original music in the past, but since we've changed personnel, we've decided that it's worth it to just start pushing the cover music and play out as much as we can to get experience with this rhythm section and get ourselves meshed as we used to be.
Wow. And how many people are in Plaid Salmon, you said?
Currently 8 people.
Wow.
Counting my brother when he's not playing with the exceptions.
Nice. Now, you guys are playing out in clubs, private events?
Yes, all of the above. Restaurants, clubs, private events. We actually just played ACC's Restaurant Gala last year, which was one of the highest level gigs I've ever played for, you know, a huge ballroom of people. And I'm happy to say that Plaid Salmon's at the level where we can take on weddings and we can tackle private events and make events special for people and you know, not just play the part, but own it.
Nice. How would somebody contact you if they wanted to maybe hear, you know, get a sample of what you guys are playing, how you play it? How would they contact you? You guys got a website? We
do not have a website. We have a very illustrious Facebook page, okay. And we also have our email, and you can find all that information on our Facebook page and our Instagram.
So Plaid Salmon on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, the Plaid Salmon. The
Plaid Salmon. And people can find some videos?
Absolutely. Plenty of videos. There's easy ways to contact us. And I check the Facebook myself personally, so say hi.
Awesome. And as far as songwriting goes, you said not really focused on songwriting for Plaid Salmon?
Not for Plaid Salmon. We've been more focused on being a party group that we can really capitalize on having really talented young musicians in the area and have as much fun as we can while being able to provide a good experience for the venues around us. Plaid Salmon is probably one of the best jazz funk cover groups that you will ever see in South Jersey, and I recommend that you come see us all next summer at Josie Kelly's Public House, where we will have a residency in Summers Point.
Very nice. Josie Kelly's, great place, awesome place, great stage, great crowd, great staff.
I can't get over it. Twisted Livin actually played upstairs at Josie Kelly's this past St. Patrick's Day, and it went phenomenally.
I don't even think I've been upstairs there. So what's the upstairs like?
It's a whiskey bar, and they recently just put in a balcony outside so they can open the sliding doors when it's warm enough out, and you can hold up to 65 people up there.
Oh, that sounds nice, and it's a great location, especially in the summer, probably.
100%. Yeah, I love Josie Kelly's. It's right on that strip. That's a huge part of what I wanted to talk about with the South Jersey music scene. I mean, The Point and Josie Kelly's and Gregory's with jazz and the Anchorage. It's just such a hub, and it's down the street from my house, so it doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, talk about convenient.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us about the South Jersey music scene, and in that particular area. You're talking about Summers Point right now, correct?
100%, yeah. Summers Point, Atlantic City, that sort of area. I wanted to mention that the amount of hardworking groups that I've seen come out of this area in the past 3 years has been more than the past 10 years combined. There's so many young people that are inspired to play music these days, and I love it. I don't know if it's because of inspiration from social media or all the exposure to just different forms of music that people are able to access these days. But I have never seen more young and creative bands in any other area. And I'm just so grateful to be where I'm at in Summers Point, because there's so many opportunities venue-wise for people to express themselves, whether it's original music or cover music. And I kind of wanted to just plug Summers Point for being an excellent outlet for me my entire life and kind of allowing me to pursue this passion of mine.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty great place. Like you said, there's a lot of opportunities. You mentioned Atlantic City. What's the scene like in Atlantic City?
I'm so grateful for the Atlantic City Arts Foundation to kind of touch on that, which is something that you reminded me of, because they have set my three-piece band Twisted Livin' up with an amazing amount of opportunities. I mean, you wouldn't believe what they've done for us in the past 2 years of us existing as a band. So the first event we were invited to do was called Arteriors, which is this fascinating concept where in the AC Arts Foundation, they have people come in and they're given commissions to create little spaces. It's almost as if you're given a corner of the room and you get to decorate it like it's a walkthrough. And Twisted Livin' got the opportunity to play right in front of this event, and it was one of the first times that they were doing it. So it was a new event, and they were trying out a new thing by having a band. And this was one of our first gigs that we had ever played, which was so fitting for us to play at an Arts Foundation event in AC, which is, we didn't know it yet, but which is where we'd be spending a lot of our time in the next 2 years, at these casinos and at Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall, as you mentioned. And we've even gotten the chance to play on the boardwalk.
Oh, nice. So the Arts Council, is that what it was? Do they have their own space?
They do, and what the Arts Foundation does is they'll rent out areas as well. There was this very really cool concept that they did, and it was similar to Arteriors, but it was people doing their own installations of physical art, and they actually did it inside of an old Payless shoe store that had been hollowed out because it was supposed to be renovated and turned into a new space, but nothing was done for it for years. So they got a permit from the city, and they basically made it into a block party, and it was
cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Twisted Livin'. So how did that come about?
Twisted Livin' is the product of Denny Shiffler, my guitar player, and myself realizing that guitar and saxophone are really, really cool, but we need a bass player.
Yeah.
It basically stemmed from Denny and I hanging out a lot and playing guitar and saxophone. When I finished over at NJCU, he texted me and he said, "Hey man, I'm writing some original music. I'd like you to hear it. I'd like you to play some saxophone on it." And so I heard him out. I thought it was great music, and I still think it's great music. And you could go listen to Denny's album. I played bass on Denny's album, and some of those first songs that he actually showed me ended up being on his album, which was really cool for me to experience.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, that album's great. You guys knew each other from school?
Yeah, luckily 1 year in middle school. I did school choice. My mom decided that it would be fun for me, or different for me, however you look at it, to try Upper Township Middle School rather than Summers Point. I went to Upper Township for a year, and that's where I met Denny, because Denny and I both played alto saxophone in the jazz ensemble in 6th grade at Upper Township. And
wow.
Yeah.
So you guys go back to 6th grade.
That's right. And we weren't too close in 6th grade, but he knew that I cared enough about the saxophone through high school to reach out to me after high school and say, hey, I want a serious horn player on this. Let's get together. And after getting together a couple times and realizing that we had something and we could really play some music, we decided, okay, we want to play this original music, but what's the best way to get a platform for your original music and start yourself off playing covers? So we decided that we were going to put together a cover band, and we weren't sure what it was going to be yet, but it took us probably a month of just getting together and writing out a set list to decide that we needed a bass player.
You were playing bass already.
I was messing around with it at my house, and I had this cheap Epiphone bass that I played around with, and we toyed with the idea of me playing bass and saxophone in the group, which is something that did end up happening. But we toyed with the idea of both, but realizing that I needed to start somewhere and take small bites, I just stuck to bass for the first couple months that we played in that group, and I pulled out the saxophone to solo on some Sublime songs, like What I Got. I was like, we used it as like some sort of just, hey, look at this, this is something I can also do.
So you actually started in Twisted Livin', you actually were started on the bass solely, pretty much, right?
100%. The reason Twisted Livin' came about is because Denny and I were starting to get some language together on guitar and bass, and we realized all we needed was a drummer, and that's where Bob came in. And
how'd you find Bob?
Bob was a friend of a friend. He was a mutual friend, and he was actually, and I hate admitting this because Bob is so amazing, but Bob was actually our third call as a drummer, and the two people that we had bailed on us and either didn't show up or just stopped answering our text messages and calls.
Wow.
And Bob was the most consistent person, and that's why he's with us to this day, 2 years later and 250 gigs later.
250 gigs later in 2 years.
Yeah, it's over that. It's over that, but it's if you want to round it off at gigs that we have been paid and booked on our own volition, it's getting close to 250, which is excellent.
Well, I've noticed lately you guys seem to be playing. You guys have been on you guys are blazing the trails down there in South Jersey, because I've seen a lot of, you've been playing a lot. I saw, did you have something in Atlantic City recently?
Yeah, we play Rush Lounge at Golden Nugget.
Okay.
We also do Hard Rock and Ocean Casino and a couple other places, but those are the mainstays.
Nice. And how about in Summers Point? You mentioned Caroline's and...
Oh, yeah. Caroline's, Josie Kelly's. I play jazz at Gregory's, and I do duos and sometimes a trio at the Anchorage.
Oh, okay. Oh, the Anchorage. Yeah, that's right around the corner from Josie Kelly's.
Oh yeah, it is. And I've pulled a double before where I play with Plaid Salmon at Josie Kelly's in the late afternoon to evening, and then I go and play 9 to 12 with Denny as a duo at the Anchorage. And that is a music full night with two different bands. A real privilege is playing a double with the same band, like I did this past weekend with Twisted Livin'. We did 6 to 9 p.m. at Ludlam Brewery in Upper Township, and then we did 10 to 2 a.m. at the Orr House in Sea Isle.
That's a great schedule. So, do you feel like is it hard to juggle?
I feel like so. I feel grateful for the opportunity. I feel like a lot of people in my position who are a musician at college would take the opportunity that their school gives them and smile and walk away, because the school does provide me with ensembles. I go once a week to go play in a jazz band, and I go once a week to go play in a classical ensemble, and then I go once a week to get a private instruction lesson on my bass guitar. But if I'm taking that and I'm feeling like I can manage, I feel like the next best thing is taking that musical ability and putting it somewhere where people can see it outside of school. So I'm really just grateful to be where I'm at, and I am managing. I'm passing my classes with flying colors, and I'm playing 3 to 5 times a week, which is more than I could ask for. I'm beyond blessed.
That is fantastic. So college and then performing, pretty much. That's pretty much all. That's your 24/7.
That is my life. If I'm not on my laptop, I am practicing my saxophone or my bass, or I am at a gig. It's working great for me right now.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys got a great start. And so are you involved in any songwriting with Twisted Livin'?
100%. We do a lot of original writing with Twisted Livin', and the recent radio performance that we had on Stockton station, WLFR, was 6 original songs that we wrote collaboratively as a group, and we're very happy to present that you'll eventually hear on our first album as Twisted Livin'. So we're in the midst of figuring out the lineup that we want. We wanted to wait until we had about 15 to 20 original songs so that we could release 6 to 8 of them and feel very confident that it was the best possible material we could put out. We've been writing original music since one of the first times that we got together with our drummer, Bob. Bob is a huge proponent of that, as well as Denny, who's been writing original music almost his entire life. Bob's a big improviser. He loves bands like Fish and the Grateful Dead and Dave Matthews.
Oh,
and
nice.
He always wants to make the arrangements of covers our own. And once we started to make them so much our own that they stopped sounding like covers, we were like, man, why don't we just write a song like this?
That was something that really shined bright when I saw you guys perform at Betsy's Sound Reflections venue.
That was such a fun show. I mean, playing at Betsy's is what a privilege to hang out with Dot and Casper while you're playing things that you love.
Dot and Casper, her two big mush dogs.
That's right. Two big love bugs.
Yep, they were kind of lounging around, enjoying the music that night. I have to say that the originals, I was really impressed by the originals that night. I mean, the covers were spectacular too, but the level of craftsmanship on the originals and the way they were performed, they were awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
And that was just I forget how many originals you guys played, maybe 3 or 4 that night?
Yeah, I think it was about 3 originals that night.
And you're saying you've got a lot more.
We have plenty more, and I'd say we have about 7 or 8 that we comfortably play live on a weekly basis. And then there are some tunes here and there that may require a second guitar track or, another vocal track, a third harmony or a fourth harmony that we wouldn't be able to have live. So, I'd say there's probably 8 to 10 that we comfortably play every week.
How would you say you split your time now between performing and songwriting? And fit college in there too.
I'd say that my daily routine it just consists of prepping. It's all prepping. I'm either prepping lyrics, or I'm prepping a melody, or I'm prepping a rhythm, or I'm prepping my schoolwork. I feel like a lot of thought ahead has saved me so much anguish this semester, because waking up and having fresh ideas in my head, I go straight to my notepad. I write down song lyrics, or I go straight to my phone and I audio record a melody that I have an idea for. And being able to part and split with an idea has given me the space and clarity that I need to really develop things over time and say, okay, I can put this idea on hold. I have schoolwork for college to do, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a big one. And you mentioned, space and clarity. Woof. Yeah, those are big, important ones. It's funny, you kind of hit the nail right where I wanted to go, because my next kind of topic, I wanted to talk about your inspiration for songwriting. Where are you how does the inspiration come to you for the songs? Is it the same? Is it different? Do you find yourself being inspired, in certain ways?
I feel as if I could credit a lot of the influences that I would credit for my instrumental fascination, like the writing of Charlie Parker and the writing of Jaco Pastorius and the playing of Victor Wooten. But what I really want to say and speak on as far as influence is Denny. Denny is such a strong songwriter to me. He has been writing since he was 11 years old, and the mind that he has to be able to pair not only some of the most original lyrical content I've ever heard, but with some of the most fascinating rhythms you could ever come up with. He's so original, and there's no better word for it. He has a very different sound that I don't hear coming out of what you would call indie songwriters in South Jersey, which is usually the group that we get pushed into.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one because, you know, people are always trying to kind of, they want to classify everything and everybody, and some of the music that defies the classification, like you said, it stands out, you know. And I kind of like when I hear something and I'm like, I'm not quite sure where it, you know, you're not quite sure where it belongs, but you know that you like it and it sounds really great. Yeah. And so sometimes, you know, what I've learned over the years is that if a song resonates, it really doesn't matter what the classification is or what genre. It might move, you know, it moves you. And I think, you know, when it moves you and you're not quite sure where to put it, I think it kind of stands out a little bit more. And I think that's what happened that night when you guys performed at Betsy's. I was like, wow, this sound is really, it's, you know, it was kind of bluesy, it was kind of rock, it was, you know, a little bit of kind of almost folk, some funk.
Absolutely. And there's no way to pin it down. If you ask me, we're right in the blues. You know, it's one of those situations where there's so much influence from the blues because we've played so much blues as our start as a cover band that you can't ignore the influence of the blues. It's so prominent in our original music.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, you know, the Stevie Ray Vaughan covers were spectacular. There was I could hear some Hendrix influence in there. So, overlap between the bands. Do you feel like there's much overlap as far as what you guys are playing? Is there any overlap for what you guys are playing between, you know, the two bands that you're in?
Yeah, so I'll take songs, specifically cover songs that I like to sing, and I'll bring them between groups because I have the opportunity to sing in both groups. So I love doing Black Crowes, Hard to Handle. I love doing Junior Wells, Messing with the Kids. So I do those songs in both groups. I love Sex Machine by James Brown.
Oh, nice.
So it's like I'll bring those with me wherever I go. You know, any band that's going to let me sing, I'm going to do those because I love playing those songs and I love the way people react to those songs.
And you're playing them differently with each band, correct?
100%. And different arrangement, different personalities breeds a way different outcome.
Sure. Does that become difficult when the kind of switching gears when you're in both bands and you're playing things different ways with both bands?
Yeah, I will say that sometimes I'll go to sing a Plaid Salmon harmony at a Twisted Livin gig or vice versa. And, it works in the sense that as long as I know where I am, I can still perform. But yeah, there is a little bit of confusion here and there sometimes. It makes it fun for me because it makes me have to be 100% focused the whole time that I'm doing what I'm doing, which is exactly how I should be.
Yeah, it gets back to what you said, that clarity. And, probably if you catch yourself quick, in the moment where you're in the wrong, in the wrong venue or band, it's like, oh, wow, you can catch it quick. And, and then sometimes maybe you even learn some improvisational skills too. Absolutely. Learning to correct things on the fly has been a huge part of my development as a musician. I mean, just being a musician at a high school, you deal with so many inconsistencies. I mean, from people that don't show up to your guitar player not remembering the tune to you not remembering the third verse. I mean, being young and playing live music is just such a privilege because you can make a lot of these mistakes now so that when you get on stage at a level where you're able to represent yourself, where I am now at the age of 21, I feel confident in my ability to put on a show and do it in a way that's palatable to most people. That's exciting. So talk about the future of the bands and your roles and your evolution as an artist, as a performer. Where does it go from here?
I feel as if once I finish my degree at Stockton and I'm able to start teaching around here, I'll have a platform for myself to be able to freelance and give private lessons, and that'll make me pretty busy during the week, so I'll have to be more selective about what my gigs are Thursday through Sunday. And I think that will allow me to pick and choose what will be the best experience for me at the given time, because I'm somebody who has the privilege of being able to pick, okay, well, an 8-piece band is playing on this night, but I'd rather play with the 3-piece band because there's going to be a huge crowd there. Or I'd rather play with the 8-piece band because I love this piano player and I love the way that he plays this set list. It's from here it goes to me trying to manage my time in a way that is efficient so that I can build my original portfolio with Twisted Livin and continue pushing Plaid Salmon as a party band.
It sounds like a great plan.
Thank you.
When can we expect an album or an EP?
Album, EP. I would say album, because I would say there's probably going to be, a decent amount of tracks on there. We're talking probably 8. But I'd say after January, because most of our recording will be done in January, and there'll probably be a month of mixing and mastering or so. So even if we're working on it in December, then after January is a safe bet.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you guys live in the Summers Point, Atlantic City area, South Jersey, and good luck with the album.
Thank you,
and thank you for taking the time to tell us about what's going on with Twisted Livin and with Plaid Salmon and the South Jersey music scene.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Will.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the platform. I hope we can talk again soon.
Sounds good.